Thank you very much, Misha, ladies and gentlemen. We in Australia are a proud nation, a country built on working hard, helping our mates, supporting our neighbours and strengthening our communities. Charities and not-for-profits are at the very core of Australian society. Today, I would like to set out the Coalition's vision for this critical sector. There are some 600,000 charitable and voluntary organisations in Australia, the vast majority of which are small, unincorporated bodies, and less than 10% are deemed to be economically significant by the ABS. They are the local carers groups in the towns and the cities across Australia. They're the sporting clubs, the congregations, the communities that fund and build schools, the welfare agencies, the bands of people who come together to support medical research or assist the poor and the afflicted, both here and overseas. They're the myriad of large and small associations that provide the vital organic being of our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, the institutions of civil society are important because they are neither created nor controlled by the state. Public funding requires accountability, and services require training and skills and a professional approach. But it's important that the independence and the volunteering ethos of the sector is protected and encouraged. The Coalition will guard against unnecessary state control of civil society, and unlike Labor, will not seek to seduce community groups into becoming mouthpieces of government. The Coalition prefers the term civil society. The description not-for-profit immediately connotes an economic framework, whereas civil society conveys a broader, different notion of which the economic is just one part. Ladies and gentlemen, over a year ago we announced our approach to civil society based on recognising and supporting the work of the institutions in this sector, an approach based on cutting and reducing red tape, of providing greater flexibility for the sector. It's an approach that trusts the institutions of civil society to govern their own affairs without constant government oversight. Ladies and gentlemen, philanthropic contributions have tapered off in recent years. If elected, the Coalition will seek to encourage a culture of giving in Australia through re-establishing the Community Business Partnership. Philanthropic endeavours strengthen and empower communities, harness the inherent virtue of Australians and encourage a greater sense of purpose and belonging across communities and income groups. Our volunteer services, welfare, environmental, sporting and community groups are all living testimony to the Coalition's belief in empowered communities. We believe that a community that freely gives of its time and financial resources is a community with a stronger social fabric and more social capital. We don't want government to do less for people, but we certainly want people to have the capacity to do more for themselves, because that's the way that stronger communities are built. A Coalition government would therefore, within 6 months, re-establish the Community Business Partnership to advise government on encouraging a culture of giving in this country. The partnership will encourage prominent Australians from the business and community sector to work together for the benefit of the community, and it will be chaired by the Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, our approach is about practical measures to cut red tape and reduce the regulatory burden facing civil society. Let me take the example of family and community service agencies. For these agencies, the Coalition government would implement one contract with each agency instead of multiple contracts, require the department to negotiate genuinely the content of that contract, simplify the auditing process, replace the system of rolling audits with one initial benchmarking audit for a period of 5 years, simplifying reporting requirements for governance arrangements, require agencies to simply report with an annual governance return, replace the current time-consuming and costly data collection system with a series of cross-sector evaluations of programs, and work with the sector to ensure that adequate and known whistleblower provisions are in place. These measures would significantly reduce the reporting requirements on the sector, and the savings could then be used by agencies across this country in frontline services. Ladies and gentlemen, the establishment of the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission was proposed with the object to protect and enhance public trust and confidence for the not-for-profit sector by establishing a national regulatory framework. Nowhere has the mischief that requires this new monolithic regulatory structure, or that justifies the sweeping powers of the ACNC, been identified. In keeping with our commitment to reduce red tape on the not-for-profit sector, a coalition government will abolish the ACNC and replace it with a Centre for Excellence, one that will have its ownership transferred to the sector itself. The focus on the new centre will shift from endless compliance and regulation to a body that encourages innovation, education and best practice, and will be also able to advise the government and undertake research. Ladies and gentlemen, for far too long government has treated civil society with platitudes, with rhetoric. And over the last few years, Labor has pursued a new way. More regulation, more duplication, more compliance. It may be why not one of their 30-odd ministers is here today. There is a better way. We believe in working with the sector, not directing the sector and treating it as an extension of the state. And we believe that those working in the sector are best placed to tell us how we can work together to ensure that we are making life easier for civil society, not harder. Our practical approach is not about making the sector feel good. It's about empowering the sector to be as good as it can. Ladies and gentlemen, the political community should be of service to civil society. And if we're elected in September, we will ensure that we are. Thank you.